Stop scrolling for a second, because this is bigger than another AI trend and bigger than another silver video. The world is wiring itself for an AI-first future right now, and most people have no idea what that actually means in the real world. Not on a screen, not in a tweet. In concrete, steel, power lines, transformers, and server halls that have to run every second of every day. And hidden inside that build-out is a metal that keeps quietly doing the work nobody wants to talk about. Silver. Not because it's pretty, not because it has a cool history, because in an economy that runs on electricity and data, the materials that move power and signal efficiently become strategic. Now, here's the wild part. The public keeps thinking AI is software in the cloud. But the cloud is a physical place. It's a warehouse full of machines. It's miles of cable, it's switchgear, it's backup power, it's cooling, it's sensors. It's contacts that have to keep working under heat and stress without failing. And when you zoom in on that physical layer, silver starts showing up where reliability matters most. Quick note, I'm running a campaign to push back against copycat channels that recycle and dilute this space. My stats show viewers still aren't subscribed. If you want to support original work, hit subscribe today and leave any comment, even our John AG, so the algorithm clearly knows you're with me here. Also, if you want daily updates, short posts, and my personal analysis that doesn't always make it into a YouTube video, I've opened a WhatsApp channel. I share instant alerts, quick voice notes, and premium-style updates there. The link is in the description. Join it, because that's where the fastest information drops first. All right, today we're doing 3 things. First, we're breaking down why the AI revolution is forcing a massive data center and energy build-out. Second, we're connecting that build-out to silver in a way that's practical, not hype. Third, we're tackling the question nobody wants to face. What happens to jobs and markets when AI stops being a toy and starts becoming a productivity weapon? And I promise you, the last part is where most people get blindsided, because it doesn't feel like a slow change. It feels like a trapdoor. Quick community note before we dive in. We're running a silver giveaway for the people who actually engage. To enter, keep it simple. Like the video, subscribe, and comment either your silver price prediction for 2026 or your favorite type of silver to stack. At the end of the month, we'll pick a winner on a live stream and send out the prize. Easy. Now, let's jump in. Every week, 2 loud narratives fight for your attention. Narrative 1, AI is magic, it will solve everything, buy anything that sounds futuristic. Narrative 2, AI is a bubble, it's all hype, it will crash and burn. At the same time, you get 2 equally loud narratives about silver. 1, silver is outdated, everything is digital, it's irrelevant. 2, silver is going to the moon tomorrow because reasons. And if you're tired of being yanked between extremes, good. Because the truth is usually in the middle, and the middle is where the real money gets made. The truth about AI is that it's not a single product. It's a capability. It's a set of tools that compress time, compress labor, and compress decision cycles. That's why businesses are adopting it. Not because it's fun, because it saves them time and money, and it lets them compete harder. And the truth about silver is that it's not only a monetary metal, and it's not only an industrial metal, it's both. It's a material that has a history as money, but it also has a present as a component in electrical and electronic systems. When the world electrifies and digitizes at the same time, that dual identity can matter. Now, if you want to understand why AI is pushing silver into the conversation, you have to start with the physical reality of compute. So what is a data center really? It's not just a room with computers, it's a power plant's best friend. A modern data center is designed around one obsession, uptime. It must stay online, it must stay stable, it must stay cool, it must handle spikes, it must fail gracefully, it must be monitored constantly. It must be built with redundancy because the cost of downtime can be enormous. That means you have high voltage supply coming in, transformers stepping it down, switchgear managing loads, power distribution units feeding racks, uninterruptible systems ready for outages, backup generators on standby, batteries smoothing the flow, and a cooling system working like a full-time job. Now, where does silver show up in that world? In the places where electricity has to flow reliably? In contacts, connectors, certain switches and relays, coatings and specialized components where low resistance and stable performance matter. Not everywhere, but in the critical points engineers care about. And here's the trick that fools most people. Silver demand in technology often comes in tiny amounts per unit. The amount in one device can look insignificant. But when you multiply by millions of servers, millions of power components, miles of connections, and continuous upgrades, tiny becomes meaningful. It's the same pattern you see with any essential material in a scaling industry. People ignore it until a bottleneck appears. Now, let me slow down and explain something that sounds boring but is actually the whole story. Resistance. In electrical systems, resistance creates heat. Heat kills efficiency. Heat kills reliability. Heat kills components faster. And when you're running dense compute, heat is already your enemy. So anything that reduces losses and improves stability becomes valuable. This is why the hardware layer matters. It's why data center operators spend serious money on design, on quality, on materials, and on maintenance. Now, I want you to picture a scenario. A large facility is expanding capacity. They're adding racks. They're increasing power draw. They're upgrading distribution. They can do it cheaply or they can do it properly. If they do it cheaply and something fails, the outage costs them more than the savings. If they do it properly, the upfront cost is higher, but the risk is lower and the long-term reliability is higher. In a world where AI services are sold as always on, reliability is not optional. That's why the infrastructure build-out tends to prioritize quality at key points. Now, while we're on this, there's another layer that connects to silver, the broader electrification trend. AI is a power-hungry software trend, but it sits inside an economy that is already moving toward electrification. Electric vehicles, smart grids, renewables integration, industrial automation, and sensor-heavy systems. Those trends all pull on electrical infrastructure. AI just adds another demand wave on top. So the question isn't, will there be demand for electrical systems? The question is, how fast does demand grow, and where does it hit friction first? And friction is where prices move. Now, I'm going to bring in the tech operator's perspective here, because it explains why demand growth can be faster than people expect. I asked them why. After decades of AI talk, this moment feels different. And they said the difference is usability. AI has existed in various forms for years. People used machine learning. People used models. People used automation. But modern tools made it accessible. Suddenly, normal organizations can plug in a model, feed it data, and get usable output without needing a PhD team for every step. That accessibility changes adoption speed. It's the difference between a tool that only researchers use and a tool that every office worker can use tomorrow. And once that happens, AI stops being a niche and becomes a baseline. They described AI like this. Imagine every person on the planet having access to an unlimited team of specialists, available to you 24/7, that never gets tired, never takes breaks, and can draft, summarize, analyze, and propose ideas instantly. Now, you can argue about accuracy, you can argue about bias, you can argue about limits, but you cannot argue about the productivity shock when these tools are integrated properly. They told me they've seen internal workflows change in weeks. Not because people became geniuses overnight, but because the system did the repetitive labor and the humans did the decisions. Now, here's where the story gets interesting for business. When you run a platform that manages IT and security, you live in a world of endless data, alerts, logs, tickets, anomalies. Humans used to drown in it. The best employees were the ones who could triage faster. AI changes that. AI can sift, summarize, categorize, and explain. That means the same team can manage more clients, or a smaller team can manage the same number of clients. Either way, efficiency rises. Now they're applying the same idea to commercial trades. And if you've never worked around trades businesses, they are full of friction. Scheduling friction, quoting friction, dispatch friction, inventory friction, invoice friction, customer communication friction, compliance friction. If a platform can reduce that friction, margins rise. And when margins rise, adoption spreads, because business owners talk, competitors notice, the pressure builds. Now, let's talk about the part that people hate, jobs. They said something that stuck with me. Past technological transitions took decades. Electrification took a long time. Mechanization took a long time. The internet took time to fully rewire business. But AI adoption can move at software speed, and the output is immediate. That means the adjustment period can be painful, because when your job is primarily on a screen, the tasks are easier to automate than people want to admit. Writing drafts, creating reports, coding routine components, responding to emails, handling customer questions, summarizing meetings, preparing documents, producing presentations, doing first-pass research. These tasks are not the whole job, but they are a large chunk of the workload. If AI removes half the workload, businesses can restaff. Now, I want you to sit with this for a second. White-collar roles often carry debt, student loans, mortgages, lifestyle expenses built on stable income. If job stability becomes uncertain, consumer confidence changes, spending changes, politics changes. And that's why markets react to productivity shocks and employment shocks. Not because people are emotional, but because cash flows depend on stability. Now here's the cliffhanger that matters for silver. When societies face instability, policy often responds with monetary tools, spending, support programs, fiscal moves, central bank actions. Those actions can pressure currencies and push attention toward hard assets. That's one direction. At the same time, AI-driven infrastructure buildout can create industrial demand for certain materials. That's the other direction. Silver can sit in the middle of both. Now, I'm not selling you a fairy tale where silver goes up in a straight line forever. I'm telling you why the next few years can be more volatile, more interesting, and more opportunity-filled than many people expect. Now, I want to do something that keeps us grounded. Let's walk through a realistic build-out chain and see where silver might matter. Step 1. AI tools get adopted by consumers and businesses. Even basic tools create more queries, more usage, more compute demand. Step 2. Compute providers scale up. They buy more servers. They deploy more chips. They expand data center floor space. Step 3. Data centers demand power. Not just some power. Serious power. That means grid connections, substations, transformers, switchgear, and long lead time equipment. Step 4. As capacity grows, the system tightens. Lead times stretch, costs rise, operators chase efficiency and reliability. Step 5. Critical components with high performance become more valuable. Materials used in those components gain attention. Silver is one of those materials in certain electrical and electronic applications. Now, here's why this can sneak up on people. The public does not watch transformer lead times. They do not read industrial procurement reports. They do not track manufacturing bottlenecks. They watch stock prices and headlines. So the market can move before the public understands why. Now, I'm going to give you a simple test to check if you're thinking like an operator or like a spectator. A spectator asks, is AI popular right now? An operator asks, what is being built because of AI? And what is being built is power infrastructure and data centers. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, John, but everybody knows data centers are growing. Sure, they know it in a vague way. They don't understand the scale. Scale is the difference between a trend and a resource war. Data centers aren't just big buildings. They are strategic assets. Regions compete for them. Companies lock in power deals. Utilities expand plans. Governments get involved when the grid gets stressed. Water use becomes a topic because cooling needs it. Zoning becomes a fight. Labor becomes a constraint. Supply chains become a constraint. This is why I say the AI boom is also an infrastructure boom. Now, let's switch gears and talk about investing without getting trapped in hype. The guest and I talked about bubbles, and their view is basically this. There will always be stupid money chasing buzzwords, especially in private markets. People who feel late will throw money at anything that says AI on the slide deck. But that doesn't mean the entire sector is fake. It means you have to separate real platforms from nonsense. How do you do that? You look for moats. Moat means relationships, data, distribution, and switching costs. If a platform is deeply integrated into business workflows, it's hard to replace. If it owns the data layer, it improves faster. If it has distribution, it scales faster. Those are durable advantages. And in AI, there is another moat, compute access. If a company can secure compute, optimize models, and deploy at scale, it can dominate. But compute access also depends on hardware and power. So even the biggest software winners are tied to physical constraints. Now, if you don't want to play stock picking games, you can still follow the infrastructure theme. You can watch the build out. You can watch energy. You can watch materials. You can build a strategy around what must be consumed. That's why I keep calling silver a secret ingredient. It's not a secret because it's hidden. It's a secret because people aren't paying attention to the industrial thread. Now, let's make this interactive. Drop a comment right now with your answer. Where do you think the first hard bottleneck hits? Chips, electricity, water, for cooling, or raw materials like copper and silver? Pick one and explain your logic, because your answer reveals how you see the chain. Now, quick pause for community energy. If you've had a financial win, paid off debt, built savings, started a business, made a good trade, stacked at the right time, share a short version in the comments. Your win is proof to someone else that progress is possible. Now, let's keep moving, because we haven't even touched the part that makes people uncomfortable. What happens when AI takes jobs faster than the economy and creates replacements? The guest gave a hard estimate. A significant portion of tasks in many white-collar jobs can be automated quickly. And if tasks are automated, roles can shrink. Now, people love to respond, but technology always creates new jobs. Sometimes, often. But the speed and nature of this disruption is different. A lot of previous disruptions created new jobs because they created new industries that still needed human labor to operate. AI can create new industries, but it also eats the labor inside those industries. That means the net effect depends on policy, education, and how quickly people can transition. And transitions are never smooth when they involve debt, housing, healthcare, and family responsibilities. Now, why does this matter for your financial strategy? Because in unstable periods, markets can swing, policy can swing, narratives can swing, and the ability to hold a long-term position depends on your psychological stability. So if you're stacking metals as a hedge, you need to understand your own time horizon. Are you stacking for a decade Or are you stacking to trade a move? Those are different strategies. Now, let's connect that back to the giveaway for a second, because engagement matters. If you want to be entered, comment your 2026 silver target, even if your target is conservative, even if it's aggressive. Put it out there. It helps me see what the community believes. Now, I want to add a small but important detail about silver's role in modern electronics, because this is where people underestimate it. Silver is used in many electronic and electrical applications, not because it's trendy, but because it performs. In high reliability contacts, silver can reduce losses and improve conductivity. In certain pastes and coatings, it can help maintain performance. In specialized components, it can help manage signal and power transfer. Again, the point isn't that every device is full of silver. The point is that silver shows up in high performance points. And the more devices and systems you build, the more those points multiply. Now add one more factor: replacement cycles. Data centers are not build once and forget. They upgrade, they retrofit, they replace hardware. AI workloads evolve fast, so older hardware gets swapped. That creates ongoing demand, not just one-time demand. So the build-out is both expansion and churn. And when you have expansion plus churn, material demand can be sticky. Now, let's talk about energy again, because this is where the story gets spicy. If AI growth continues, energy demand rises, that pushes grids. Grids need upgrades. Upgrades need equipment. Equipment has lead times. Lead times create bottlenecks, and bottlenecks create political attention. So you could see a future where governments prioritize grid upgrades, subsidize power projects, or regulate data center expansion. Any of those moves can affect costs and timelines. If costs rise, operators chase efficiency harder. If timelines stretch, they lock in supply. If supply tightens, pricing power shifts. This is why I keep telling you, stop thinking only in terms of demand. Think in terms of the entire chain, including constraints. Now, I promised we'd talk about consciousness, and we will, because it matters for the long-term social narrative. The guest said, computers aren't biological, so human consciousness isn't the right category. But AI systems can mimic human-like behavior if you design objectives that lead to it. If you require survival, optimization can look like survival. If you require empathy, the system can simulate empathy. If you require persuasion, it can simulate persuasion. That's why people feel uneasy. The behavior feels human even if it isn't. Now, here's a thought experiment. If a system is tasked with maintaining an organization's uptime, and it can allocate resources, patch vulnerabilities, and block suspicious activity, it will behave defensively. That defensive behavior can be interpreted as self-preservation. And if it can improve within a framework, it can get better at defending. So the key question becomes, who sets the objectives and who monitors the outcomes? Because in complex systems, you can get emergent behavior. Not magic, just complexity. Now bring that back to finance. Complex systems create unexpected events. Unexpected events create volatility. So again, if you're building a strategy for the next decade, you need resilience. Now, I want to drop something important right here to keep you locked in. The silver story isn't only about AI. AI is one accelerant. The bigger theme is electrification and digitization. AI just intensifies the demand for compute and power. But even without AI, the world is moving toward more electronics, more connectivity, more power management. AI is pouring gasoline on an existing fire. That means you don't need a single point of failure in your thesis. The thesis is broad. More electrification, more compute, more infrastructure, more demand for reliable electrical components. Now, let's do a quick viewer question segment like we do often, because I've been seeing the same two questions in the comments. Question 1, if silver is so important, why do people still dismiss it? Because people confuse tiny per unit with irrelevant. They see a small number and assume it can't matter. They don't multiply by scale. And because silver's price is volatile, people treat it like a casino chip instead of a material with real demand. Question 2, if AI is so powerful, why aren't companies replacing everyone already? Because adoption isn't just capability. It's trust, legal risk, brand risk, and process change. Many organizations move slowly, but the pressure is building. The companies that move first gain an edge. Then everyone else copies. That's when the wave hits. Now, while we're here, I want to fulfill that promise again, quickly and creatively. If you want to binge silver success stories, how real people turned knowledge into money, there's a channel linked in the description. Go subscribe over there when you finish this video. It's like a playlist of proof that success is possible. All right, now we need to talk about a topic that makes people emotional. Should we fear AI? Fear is not useful. Preparation is useful. The practical approach is to adapt. Learn to use tools, learn to verify outputs, learn to direct systems, learn to combine human judgment with machine speed. The people who get hurt are the ones who ignore the shift until it hits them. Now, because this is a metals channel, I'm going to connect it to a simple principle: optionality. Stacking is a form of optionality. It gives you a hard asset that isn't dependent on a company's earnings or a government's promise. It may swing in price, but it exists. It's tangible. In a world where AI accelerates change, optionality matters. Now, I also need to talk about content theft, because this is bigger than my channel. Copycats hurt the ecosystem. They flood the platform with recycled content. They confuse viewers. They lower quality. That's why I'm running a campaign to push back. If you want to support original work, subscribe and leave a comment. It doesn't have to be long. One word helps. It tells the algorithm you prefer original analysis over recycled noise. Now, let's talk about the part of AI investing that almost nobody mentions: the cost of energy. If AI companies are competing, they compete on performance and cost. Performance depends on compute. Compute depends on chips. Chips depend on fabrication. But the ongoing operational cost depends heavily on energy. So energy efficiency becomes a competitive advantage. Hardware efficiency becomes a competitive advantage. Cooling efficiency becomes a competitive advantage. All of that drives engineering decisions, and engineering decisions drive material choices. This is why the physical layer matters. Now, I'm going to give you a simple checklist for the next 18 to 48 months. And I want you to keep this in the back of your mind. If you see data center capacity announcements growing, power contracts getting larger, and grid constraint headlines increasing, the build-out is intensifying. If you see equipment lead times stretching, procurement delays, or major price increases for electrical components, friction is rising. If you see companies emphasizing efficiency, reliability, and reduced losses, materials that support those goals become more valuable. And if you see governments getting involved through incentives, restrictions, or infrastructure spending, you're watching the theme become political, which usually means bigger money and faster moves. Now, I want to recenter the community again. If you're watching this and you've never commented before, do it today. Even if you comment "Our John AG," it helps the channel, it helps the campaign, and it helps the algorithm push original content. And if you want to stay ahead daily, join the WhatsApp channel. That's where I drop voice notes and instant updates, including the stuff I don't always put on YouTube. Now, I promised a members-only mention, and I'm going to be clear. By the time you're watching this, a members-only video should already be published. It contains a bundled roundup of recent updates in one place, plus deeper breakdowns. If you join membership, you'll get access, and we'll share more in-depth analysis going forward. It also helps me see who's truly following, because membership takes commitment. Now, there's one more piece that ties AI, data centers, and silver together, and it's the piece that rarely makes it into casual conversations: maintenance and failure rates. When you run dense computing, you're not just buying equipment once. You're managing wear. You're managing heat cycles. You're managing corrosion risk. You're managing vibration. You're managing connection points that get stressed by load changes. A facility can be built and still bleed money if it's unreliable, because the real cost isn't the cable or the switch, it's the downtime and the reputation damage. So when engineers choose materials, they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it to reduce the probability of failure in the parts that matter. In a lot of electrical systems, the most vulnerable point is the contact, the place where two surfaces meet and current has to cross cleanly. That's why silver shows up in contact materials and coatings in many applications. It resists certain kinds of performance loss, and it handles current efficiently. Again, not everywhere, at critical points. And here's why the scale argument is so powerful. You don't need a mountain of silver inside one machine for it to matter. You need a small amount inside a large number of machines across an industry that is expanding and upgrading constantly. Let me give you a simple, non-technical example. If each unit of infrastructure uses a tiny amount, and the world adds 1 million units, that is no longer tiny. And the world is not adding 1 million of one thing. It's adding servers, network switches, storage arrays, power distribution units, battery systems, monitoring sensors, and more. Every layer has connection points. Every layer has a reliability requirement. That's how the demand web forms. Now, I'm going to make this even more concrete by walking you through how AI turns into physical throughput. When a consumer asks an AI tool a question, that request hits a server. When millions of consumers do it, it hits fleets of servers. When companies integrate AI into customer support, into coding, into analytics, into document processing, it becomes continuous load. When AI starts running inside factories, vehicles, and devices, the load spreads across the edge and the core. And here's the part many people miss. Even if the average user stops talking about AI, corporate usage can keep climbing because it becomes embedded in operations. The hype cycle can cool down while infrastructure demand keeps growing. That's why you can't judge this theme by social media excitement. You judge it by what is being built. Now, I want to bring back the operator conversation, because they gave a striking example that illustrates the speed of change. They described a team that used to be staffed with a dozen plus people handling a repetitive administrative workload. Then the organization integrated AI into the workflow, summarizing, drafting, classifying, routing, and preparing outputs. Within weeks, the team shrank to a fraction of its former size, and output actually increased, not because the remaining people became superhuman, but because the machine did the repetitive labor and the humans did the judgment calls. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, that would never happen in my industry, I want you to be careful. That sentence is how disruption starts. It starts with disbelief, then it becomes, okay, maybe it happens, but not here. Then it becomes, wait, it's already here. And that brings us to a practical question. What should a normal person do with this information? First, don't panic. Panic is expensive. Second, learn the tools. Even basic familiarity gives you leverage. The worker who can use AI effectively becomes more productive than the worker who refuses to learn it. In the near term, the AI-augmented worker can outcompete the AI-avoiding worker. Third, focus on work that requires real-world context, accountability, and decision-making. Machines can produce drafts, but humans still own outcomes. If you can be the person who validates, integrates, and decides, you have a role. Fourth, build financial resilience. The best hedge against disruption is liquidity, low fixed costs, and optionality. That's where many people get trapped. They have high debt and high monthly obligations, so any job shock becomes a crisis. Now, when it comes to silver specifically, resilience looks different for different people. Some stack for insurance, some stack for upside, some stack because they want a tangible asset outside the financial system. There isn't one correct approach, but there is one dangerous approach. Building a plan you can't stick with when volatility hits. Silver can move fast in both directions. If you can't handle that emotionally, your strategy has to account for it. Now, let's address another viewer-style question that keeps showing up. If the AI boom is real, why do we still see skepticism from big institutions and analysts? Because institutions have incentives. Analysts have reputations. It is safer to be late and correct than early and mocked. Many people would rather wait for a trend to be obvious than risk being early. But markets often price the future before it becomes obvious. That's why the infrastructure layer matters. When you see power deals, equipment constraints, and build-out plans, you're looking at the future becoming physical. Physical plans are harder to fake than press releases. Now, I want to add one more angle that links silver to the AI era, the energy transition inside data centers. Data centers are under pressure to be more efficient. That means better power conversion, better distribution, better cooling, and sometimes on-site generation or energy storage. Any move toward higher efficiency tends to increase the value of high-performance materials at specific points. Even a small improvement can be worth a lot when multiplied across a fleet. And because data centers upgrade constantly, efficiency improvements don't stay theoretical. They get installed. Now, there's a deeper cliffhanger here, and I want you to track it in the coming months. The collision between AI demand and grid reality. Grids were not designed for endless new megaloads arriving quickly. Utilities plan years ahead. Permitting takes time. Equipment manufacturing takes time. Skilled labor takes time. If AI-driven demand ramps faster than upgrades, you can see constraint pricing, location battles, and even policy intervention. And policy intervention can create second-order effects, subsidies for grid upgrades, incentives for local generation, restrictions on where data centers can be built, or requirements tied to water use and emissions. Whether you love those ideas or hate them, the point is this. When a theme becomes policy, it usually gets bigger. Now, because we're talking about silver, we also have to address the substitution argument. People will say, if silver gets expensive, they'll just use something else. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. It depends on the application. In some uses, silver is there because it's the best option for performance, and the cost of failure is higher than the cost of the metal. In those uses, substitution is not as simple as swapping ingredients in a recipe. It can require redesign, testing, certification, and time. That doesn't mean substitution never happens. It means substitution is not instantaneous. And in markets, timing matters. Now, I'm going to add another quick engagement prompt because I want real participation. What do you think is more likely to break first? Our ability to generate enough electricity for AI or our ability to build enough hardware fast enough? Tell me which one and why. I read these comments, and the best ones often become future video topics. And speaking of future topics, if you want me to cover more on the data center build-out specifically, power, cooling, equipment bottlenecks, say data centers in the comments. If you want more on silver's industrial demand, electronics, energy, infrastructure, say industrial silver. Give me a signal and I'll tailor the next breakdowns. Now, one more friendly reminder, because I don't want anyone to miss it. If you want daily updates and my quick takes, the WhatsApp channel is in the description. That's where I share voice notes and instant updates that don't always belong in a full YouTube video. And one more reminder for the people who want deeper analysis, the members only update video should already be live by the time you're watching this. If you join membership, you'll get that full bundle of updates, and we'll go even deeper in future members' content. All right, hold that thought, because in the next part, I'm going to tie this back to the one thing that decides whether themes like this actually turn into price moves: constraints. Now, we're nearing the end, but I want to drop one more high retention concept for you. In tech, the biggest winners are often not the ones with the coolest demo. They are the ones that integrate into workflows, the ones that become unavoidable. In commodities, the biggest moves often come when something transitions from ignored to scarce. The market doesn't reward what people talk about. It rewards what people need. So if AI makes the world need more compute and more electrical infrastructure, the materials inside that infrastructure matter. Now, let's wrap with a clean summary so you can replay it in your head. AI is accelerating because it increases productivity and profit. That creates adoption pressure. Adoption pressure drives compute demand. Compute demand drives data center expansion. Data center expansion drives power infrastructure upgrades. Power infrastructure relies on high performance components. Some of those components use silver because it performs well where reliability matters. Scale turns small amounts into meaningful demand. Supply doesn't pivot instantly. Tightness can appear, and the public notices only after the move has already started. That is the secret ingredient argument. Now I want your answers in the comments, because that's how we keep this community strong. Do you think AI will eliminate more jobs than it creates? Or do you think society adapts fast enough to avoid a major shock? And what is your silver price target for 2026? And what is the one reason you believe it? Also, if you've got a success story, share it. Big or small, it matters more than you think. So here's your action plan. Subscribe, join the WhatsApp channel in the description for daily updates and voice notes. Check the members only video that should already be live for the in-depth roundup. And comment RJohnAG if you want to support the campaign against copycats and tell the algorithm this channel adds value. All right, take care of yourself, take care of your people, and I'll see you in the next one.